time do we have?
A voice screams over the music. With the money in the bag. No one
let me write this then.
Reasons. No one ever gets his name. This is all happening right now. Less than 5 miles away. A second rate computer in the middle of round 4, deflecting every combination until you just can't anymore. He feels his knees starting to buckle. He hears the numbers 1 through 8. This is all happening right now. Less than 5 miles away. This is all happening right now. Less than 5 miles away. A stranger in the bushes, looking through the windows of the home. Out a woman from the movies, that's been living there alone. She's home at 7 in the evening. He sees the cold punch in the gate. This is all happening right now. Less than 5 miles away. This is all happening right now. And it all looks so pretty from a distance. How we're living out the story that we tell. Maybe we were both designed out in the cosmos. It's just a way of asking questions about itself. You know the great writer that left us, but his house is still around, like an old dead volcano that sleeps over the town. They're gonna turn it into condos. They'll be done by New Year's Day. This is all happening right now. Less than 5 miles away. This is all happening right now. This is all happening right now.
at orientation. Okay. And I'm writing things about these two students. One of them I don't even know, so in charge of math camp at orientation in fall 2017.
I've got to make an announcement here in a couple of minutes. As soon as Professor Brown is done writing down his
Oh, am I Carla?
You're on mic.
The mic's on.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
And is that mine? No, that's. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming this morning. My name is Connell Fullenkamp. I'm the Director of Undergraduate Studies in the Economics Department. I just want to make a quick announcement that our ceremony is going to begin very shortly. So I'd kindly ask the graduates to take their places on the main floor. There are also a few open seats on the main floor, please, so feel free to pack in around in the back here and on the sides. It's a little bit cozy because of the construction in Cameron, so we appreciate everybody's efforts to get cozy and get to know your neighbor a little bit. And we should begin in about 5 minutes or so. Thank you very much.
Yes. So are we lighting up?
I don't know. Just tell us if you're lining up. Oh, okay.
Wait, no, I asked Fullenkamp. He said yeah. Oh, okay. So we can take a picture of him.
think that's Ari? You think that's okay to put that there, or should I move them up now? Let's do that. We're gonna make it work.
Good morning, everyone. Is it hot enough for you this morning? Welcome to the Duke Economics graduation ceremony for 2018. I'm Craig Burnside, the chair of the department. On behalf of our faculty and staff, it's my pleasure to welcome all our graduating students, parents, family members, and friends to this celebration. We're grateful that many of you have traveled a great distance to be here from around the country and around the world. We also welcome those of you who are joining us online. As is often the case, our graduation ceremony this year coincides with Mother's Day, so I'd like to give special greetings to all the mothers that are here with us today. Last year I stood here and expressed a lot of optimism, despite the seeming lack of positivity in our public discourse. Oh my, what a year it has been since then. Nonetheless, seeing all our graduates today, my optimism is intact. And I'd just like to say a few things about what you can do to try and keep it that way. After the celebrations are over, go forth and be positive. Be kind. Be respectful of a diversity of opinion. But also be smart in the pursuit of truth. Because while all ideas deserve a chance, objectively, not all of them stand up to rigorous consideration. As you've all learned at some point, of course, not all hypotheses can pass a test of statistical significance at the 5% level. And just like last year, my last piece of advice to you all is to be good economists. Our reputation, after all, depends on that. So before we begin the degree ceremony, I would like to introduce our honorary faculty speaker, Frank Sloan. A native of Greensboro, North Carolina, Frank's distinguished career in economics spans nearly 60 years, with an A.B. from Oberlin, a Ph.D. from Harvard, and affiliations with the Rand Corporation, UCLA, the University of Florida, Vanderbilt, and Duke, where since 1993 he has been the J. Alexander McMahon Professor of Health Policy and Management and Professor of Economics. Frank is an international leader in the field of health economics. His honors and accomplishments are many too many to list, but I'll try to give you a sense of scale. Our department recently went through a process of external review, and as part of that process, I had to ask each faculty member to give me a short version of their CV, something that was limited to their publications, who they had supervised, and their major honors. And just to give you a sense of scale, mine just managed to eke over 4 pages long. Frank sent me a tome and broke my inbox. His is 47 pages long. Now, Frank fully intends to be active in research indefinitely, but this year marks Frank's retirement from Duke, so there is no one more appropriate to offer words of wisdom to our graduates this year. And with that, I'll hand it over to Frank.
Thank you, Craig, for inviting me to speak. Today marks an important transition from studenthood to alumni or alumnus or alumni status. As alumni, you are Duke's most permanent fixture. Faculty and university presidents come and go, trustees' terms end. As a young alumni, you may not have the financial resources to make major donations, but nevertheless, you can help shape Duke's future direction. The thrust of these remarks is that I argue that you can affect collective decisions at Duke and in the larger world. One may say that individuals alone cannot affect public policy, but we as individuals can make others' lives better. Economists study how people respond to incentives, and that can be called extrinsic motivation. But I'm going to talk about intrinsic motivation in this talk. The intrinsic motivation guides us to do what is right without receiving an external reward. The intrinsic motivation is why we care about the feelings and experiences of others and can be motivated to act on them. For example, why last fall some students reacted to the revelation of the Lee statute and at other times have made demands on Duke, which I applaud in principle, even though I don't necessarily agree with each individual demand. On the Lee matter, following events in Charlottesville, controversy came to Duke. A statue of Robert E. Lee at Duke's chapel entrance was defaced and quickly removed. As a native North Carolinian, I was not at all surprised that Lee's statue adorned the entrance for 85 years. The Confederate general was venerated from the time the chapel was built through the mid-20th century, and for some people, quite a bit longer. Why bring this up now? It is part of Duke's history, and by extension, yours as a Duke alum. We need to be informed and not surprised. Also, what happens when you change from student to alumni status? Often we, and probably me too, become more conservative and maybe less concerned about these issues. But I'm arguing that we should keep involved. While respected regionally, Duke was not always a national and international leader, and it wasn't always as diverse as now. Increased diversity is a reason for Duke's growth. An admission process that selects students based on skin color or ethnicity inevitably excludes contributors to the institution's excellence. Moreover, such discrimination promotes a perception that our way is the best way. We become oblivious to other perspectives and ways of doing things. An interchange between a prospective student and Duke and President Hollis Edens, and you'll know him from the dorm, I guess, among other things, illustrates how far we have come, while admitting that we have far to go. I will read two short letters that I got from our library. On May 26, 1950, Virgil Stroud of my hometown, Greensboro, wrote to President Edens, "Dear Sir, this is to inquire of the possibility of attending Duke University as a graduate student in the field of public law and government. I am a Negro, a veteran, and would desire to attend as a day student. Further, I'm employed at A&T College, and with a family, I find it increasingly difficult to get too far away from home. Hence, it would be a decided advantage to get training in this state. I understand the conditions involved, and the case may not be appropriate. I would expect a frank and direct reply from you. Yours very truly, Virgil Stroud." 4 days later, President Edens replied. Replying to your dear Mr. Stroud, which was even unusual at the time to even refer to an African American as Mr. Okay, but he did. Okay. Replying to your letter of May 26, you perhaps are familiar with the past history of Duke University and the policy concerning requests similar to yours. There has been no change in policy. I would suggest you confer with the North Carolina College at Durham concerning opportunities for the study of public law and government at that institution. As you know, that college has a law school which has been recently accredited. Hoping that you are able to work on your, and I underline your, problem through the means suggested above or through some other means. Sincerely yours, Hollis Edens. President Edens was probably concerned about reactions from trustees, alumni, and donors, and the indifference of students and faculty if he had taken the lead and encouraged Mr. Stroud to apply to Duke. While we might be upset at Edens's response. University presidents do serve limited terms, and they serve multiple constituencies. It is difficult for a university leader to get far ahead of the constituencies. You belong to a constituent as a student, and certainly more so now as alumni. We faculty come and go. You, again, as alumni, stay. While the above exchange of letters gives reasons for pause, I note opposition to Duke's segregation policy in a letter from the male Student Government Association to Duke's board, petitioning for desegregation, dated November 29, 1959. The letter is part of a file containing the letters I just read. The Stroud and correspondence was in the same file. The students who objected, they were probably now like 80 years old, were ahead of many of the old-timers. So it was actually the trustees kept holding to this segregation policy. At the same time, in fall 1959, as a high school senior, I applied to Duke and 3 other colleges. Duke was my insurance school. I applied early admission, was admitted, but later decided to attend Oberlin College. Duke was my insurance school, not because I was so smart, but because admission standards for male students were not high. During the late 1970s or early 80s, my father said that great things were happening at Duke. He was correct. A major transformation had occurred, a transition from a regional to a national university. Why did this transformation occur? I offer 2 reasons. One, outstanding leadership of President Terry Sanford, and the second is Duke's elimination of racial discrimination in admissions. In 1959, Duke did not admit African Americans. Oberlin College, which I attended, had done so since the 1830s. While there was no admissions policy at Duke regarding geographic diversity, when I was growing up, being a Yankee was a negative attribute. The South discouraged applicants in this way by holding this regional pride. Outstanding students from outside the South were discouraged from applying. Now I want to look to the future, and I'm going to get back to a similar point. The rising sticker price of higher education represents a threat to student diversity based on income. The sticker price of a private college or university education has been rising by about 5% a year in nominal terms, 2 to 3% annually in real terms. Now, what does this mean? This means when your children enter college, say 25 years from now, if history is a predictor, the annual sticker price per year will be about $130,000 per year in today's dollars. This is an amount that families, even in the top 1% of the income distribution, will have trouble paying, even especially if they have multiple family members wanting to go to higher education. A 50% discount, because we always hear there's a big discount. 50% discount on 130,000 is 65,000. When I was a student in the early 60s, we paid 2,000 or 3,000 a year per year. And with that, put in today's dollars, you could buy a Camry. With 130,000, I suggest you could buy several Camrys. What can we do about this as alumni, still too young to be major donors? I've listed several possibilities, but I'm only going to talk about one. There's a need for you as alumni to question the rationale for annual increases in the sticker price. The increases are typically cast in language that implies that raising the sticker price is a technical decision. The cost of education is increased, and we're told that we just have to pay these increases. Yet labor, buildings, equipment, supplies are determined by the institution. Many factor prices, including administrators, coaches, and professors are determined at market levels, reflecting infusion of funds in the form of tuition revenues, contributions, and other factors. The rising sticker price and the reasons for it are complex. However, I want to leave you with one of the points stressed above. Assuming you can afford it, the $130K, and I hope you can, and expect you can, okay? Okay. Do you want your children to attend a college or university at which they only meet students from the top 1% of the income distribution? Would they not miss a lot of experiences of the other 99%? We are at the risk of replacing an improvement in racial and ethnic diversity while even further reducing the diversity of the student body in terms of income and wealth. In conclusion, when I ask students whether they like Duke, the answer is a resounding yes. Overall, you have had a fabulous experience. You have been blessed with many talents, but you face uncertainties about your futures. Individually and collectively, you represent a positive force. Do seize the opportunity to improve the welfare of other individuals and to make Duke higher education and the world a better place. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those words, Frank. Now it's my pleasure to begin the part of the ceremony where we actively recognize our graduates. We're going to start with our Ph.D. recognition ceremony. So I would like to call to the podium our Director of Graduate Studies, Professor Kurt Taylor.
All right. Thanks, Doug. Good morning. I know graduation for many of you marks a new beginning, new challenges, new adventures. Professors are particularly happy about this day because starting tomorrow we can wear shorts to work. I've been the Director of Graduate Studies for our Ph.D. program for the past 7 years. They've been often wonderful years, sometimes challenging situations, and I'm glad to have done it, but I'm stepping down as the director at the end of June, and Federico will come after me. I just wanted to reflect a little bit on the time I've spent as Director of Graduate Studies and running our Ph.D. program. I've been called many names over the past 7 years, like Sugar Daddy, Gatekeeper, and things I can't really say on stage on Mother's Day, but you can imagine. The things I'm proudest of being called are our friend and mentor. My staff and I've had an amazing staff, working with me these past 7 years, Kristen and Julianne in particular. We've had to deal with some very unusual situations. We've had students who were robbed, unfortunately. We've had students who were arrested that we had to deal with. One student quit the program to become a professional poker player. Another quit because he missed surfing. We've had to deal with complicated issues involving students' mental health and physical health. Occasionally, students would even come to my office and ask for dating advice. That's way above my pay grade. It's been my distinct honor these 7 years to help so many young men and women achieve their dream of becoming professional economists. This year's class is one of the strongest ever to graduate from our Ph.D. program. I'm very proud of them. And now comes the part of the job I like the best. I get to shake their hands and welcome them into the profession of being a professional economist. Please join me in congratulating them.
Adam Bergeron. Vašku Buteliu. Paul Elison. Margot Louflade. Elisa Maffioli. Jose Martinez Carrasco. Catherine Moon. Andrew Stack. Sue Zhang.
Thank you. Now we're going to move on to the master's programs. I'd like to call to the podium Professor Timur Karan, who is head of the Master's in Political Economy, to introduce our graduates and make some remarks.
The ceremonies that make up graduation week at a university are called commencement exercises for a reason. They call on us not only to celebrate achievements, but also to focus on what is beginning. In other words, they call on us to reflect on the promise that lies ahead. In the case of our MA and MS graduates, what has ended is a rigorous 2-year program. We've come together with family and friends to celebrate the hard work that won our students one of 4 master's degrees: an MA in economics, an MA in analytical political economy, an MS in economics and computation, or an MS in quantitative financial economics. With variations in emphasis, these programs teach higher order skills in economic analysis. They teach the student how to evaluate economic data critically at an advanced level. They equip the student with tools to solve complex economic problems independently as a professional. They teach the student also to communicate the results of economic analysis in the form of a well-organized presentation, paper, or report. A word on the specific emphases of the 4 programs. The MA program in economics is designed to give students a quantitative approach to economics with maximum flexibility to fit future goals. The MA program in analytical political economy is a joint degree with the political science department. It is designed to focus students' attention on relationships between politics and markets. An MS in economics and computation serves the needs of students interested specifically in solving economic problems using big data. And the MS in quantitative financial economics is designed to give students the theoretical and empirical tools needed for a career or a doctoral program in finance. So with the theme of commencement in mind, we're also celebrating the doors that our graduates' new skills have opened. For some of our graduates, the door is open to a job in consulting, government, research, or management. For others, the door is open to yet another academic program, one toward a Ph.D. in economics, or in some cases, a Ph.D. in business administration, political science, public policy, or statistical science. Students, over the past 2 years, I've had the pleasure of getting to know quite a few of you personally as your advisor, your teacher, or simply one of your adopted mentors. I've seen you take on challenges and succeed through determination. I've seen you face up to weaknesses and overcome them. It's given me particular joy to watch you discover talents you didn't know you had, sometimes in areas that weren't on your radar screen when you set foot at Duke. May you remain open to discovery and new challenges, because we live in a world of dizzying technological change and unpredictable shifts in social needs. The intellectual courage and flexibility that I observe time and again will serve you well as the future unfolds, just as it will serve a global society that sorely needs your talents. One more personal note. I know I speak for all my colleagues in saying that we'd like to keep up friendships formed with students and advisees. Do keep in touch with your professors, especially with those who have been close mentors during your time at Duke. They will enjoy hearing about how you are doing, where you are headed, and what impact you are making. We would like to honor 2 master's graduates for their exceptional achievements. The first is Hao Pang. Hao, would you please come up to the podium? Hao is receiving the Master's Program Award for Academic Excellence. Not only does Hao have an outstanding academic record, but he achieved this while taking almost entirely Ph.D. level classes from his very first semester in the program. In evaluating our MA students for academic excellence, we take into account both grades and class difficulty. Hao has excelled on both of these metrics. Please join me in congratulating Hao. The second award goes to Carla Rodriguez. Carla, please come forward. Carla is receiving this award, receiving the Master's Program Award for Leadership. Carla was an active member of EMAC, the Econ Masters Students Organization. She was also in charge of the Math Camp at Orientation in fall 2017. Please join me in congratulating Carla. Connell.
Now we'll continue to recognize our master students, and they will, Emma Raciel, who is also partly in charge of the master's program, will call the names and will recognize the graduates.
Thanks, Connell. Scott Wheaton. Harsh Parekh. Ipek Cavasolo. Francis Osebonsu. Mayu Kulathungam. Katerina Kiopris. Anne Nguyen Van Dam. Natchachan Kiatrang Wilaikan. Lu Huang. Yishang Zhuang. Shaw Wang. Zhenglin Sun. Junwang Luo. Shiran Wang. Yue Ma. Sida Lee. Lin Zhao. Thank you. Yaja Tang. Haichi Shao. Yichang Wang. Jieshang Wang. Yang, excuse me. Yu Wu. Jaha Yuan. Jinliang Liu. Chuanyu Chu. Zishan Zheng. Haonan Wu. Xinshin Zhan. Kylie Chen. Yinshi Gao. Xuzhe Lo. Yu Chen. Mintz Neo. Jin Liu. Boya Xu. Le Tang. Zue Guo. Heran Zhang. Yizhe Zhou. Juan Chu. Hanan Dong. Yechu Hua. Jali Guo. Xuchao Gao. Fei Xiao Chan. Jenny Zhang. Zaya Wang. Ji Wang. Hanmeng Wong. Yanlin Yu. Shuqi Chen. Yi Ye. Tammy Lee. Sungwoo Cho.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to the part of the ceremony where we recognize our undergraduates. It is a long-standing tradition in the economics department that we have a student undergraduate speaker, and so I'd like to call Maya Dravasala to the podium. While she comes up, I get to embarrass her to talk about how wonderful she is. She's one of the academic superstars in the department. Just to give you an indication, I think she made at least a 70% average in Econ 101 when she took my course. 70%, ladies and gentlemen. Astounding. Maya is also recognized outside of Duke. Last year she was named one of the Harry S. Truman Scholars because of her engagement with academics, but also her desire to use her academic abilities to do research to attack social problems, including looking at the roots of poverty. And that turned up, that became part of her senior honors thesis, which won Best Thesis. And in the future, she's going to go on and do research for a couple of years before she decides where to get a Ph.D., but you can expect to hear many great things from her. And now we have the pleasure of hearing her final words for you graduates. Maya?
Thank you, Professor Fullenkamp, for what was an overly flattering introduction. I'm honored and excited to speak here today for many reasons, chief among which is that I now have the opportunity to say thank you to everyone. Since I've learned better than to draw generalizations from a single data point, I'll avoid speaking for my peers today, but hope that every member of the class of 2018 will join me in thanking those who have given us a home in this department over the past 4 years, and the privilege of a Duke economics education. In particular, thank you to the EcoTeach staff, who made sure so many times over the past 4 years that each of us actually made it to Cameron today. To the TAs and graduate students who answered questions that were little more than, I don't understand the question, who helped to problem solve stata error messages that included invalid something, and my personal favorite, the time it just said no. And whose excitement to talk about estimators has been shockingly infectious. To the friends and family members who have been vicariously dragged along through semesters with way too many problem sets, and who, in my case, endured and encouraged a year in which I managed to relate almost everything back to gold ownership in Indonesia. Also, happy Mother's Day to all the moms. I'm sorry we made you sit outside for so long this morning. Of course, thank you to the professors who have become mentors over the past 4 years. I have had many conversations with professors in this department who have drifted off on tangents about how much they love their jobs. And it shows that I am truly excited to pursue a career in economics is due almost entirely to their mentorship. 4 years ago, I was pretty thrilled to realize that there exists a formal discipline at the intersection of math and politics. That people, our professors, ask questions like activists about prosperity, growth, and well-being, then find answers like scientists. To be fair, I came to Econ 101 after spending a year working in state politics, so I was extremely susceptible to the promise of rational thinking. During this time, I had watched bills to fund education and healthcare in some of the poorest places in America die after debates alternated between well-intentioned ideology and political grandstanding. No facts, no numbers. I ended up with many, many questions for people who run for state senate in New Mexico for the glory, but more crucially realized just how important it is to understand why and how well programs and systems work. Economics provided a vocabulary for this frustration, and more importantly, a set of skills that has made it possible to constructively reject the idea that doing good follows from meaning well. Of course, there are many, many different frameworks for analyzing institutions and interactions, dozens of which are being celebrated in ceremonies just like this right now. But I imagine that one characteristic I share with most of my peers and my professors on stage here is that the systematic approach to choice, to the trade-offs and incentives that motivate decision-making, seems like an especially powerful way of thinking about what we encounter every single day. In Econ 101, we began by considering the ways in which one might ration resources between smokes and jerky, an example that, to be honest, my uptight vegetarian self found wildly unappealing. But we made a simple, implicit assumption with this first example, which carried through to discussions in later classes ranging from causality and regression analysis to competing theories of macroeconomic growth. We've been taught to assume in each course that we have the tools at our disposal to describe behaviors in institutions, to understand why things work in the ways that they do, up to, of course, a stochastic error term. This is the geekiest form of idealism that I can think of, that we can begin to make sense of a fundamentally random world. And it's an approach to problem solving that seems universally applicable when we become lawyers and policy wonks and bankers and consultants, but I think we're all going to become consultants. I'm reminded often that there are many pathways through the economics major and many more post-grad options, usually when a friend of mine makes fun of my illiteracy about all things finance or whatever it is. But some of the most valuable lessons that I've learned over the past 4 years at Duke and in economics have nothing to do with when you cluster standard errors and whatever LIBOR and DCF stand for. Courses in math, statistics, and economics gave us the skills to both deconstruct and reconstruct arguments, policies, and systems. We were reminded that the assumption that those we encounter are rational is not necessarily a bad one. It taught us to give our friends and enemies some latitude, to realize that they may be optimizing according to constraints and within paradigms that we just don't understand. And we learned to think critically about choices, how and why they're made, and how they change in response to shocks in our environment. To suggest that studying economics, the dismal science, made us better people might be a stretch, but it definitely didn't hurt. All of this is to say thank you for 4 incredible years. And of course, congratulations to the class of 2018.
Thank you very much, Maya. Now I'd like to call to the podium the director of our honors program, Dr. Michelle Connolly, to introduce and announce the awards for our graduates with distinction.
Thank you, Connell. So Maya is the perfect example of our idea of a very successful, incredibly successful experience with our students. Her emphasis on us wanting to give you the skills to actually understand arguments, understand their strengths and weaknesses, understand whether they can be supported or not, is fundamentally one of the most, in my opinion, one of the most important things that we need in a population, no matter what field you go into later, so that we have an educated population or a population who's willing to discuss things beyond the level of opinion. I've been at Duke for 21 years now. I think TJ was born that year. It makes me feel a little old, but it also explains why I kind of adopt a lot of the students. I think of them as my kids, and I'm always a little sad after graduation because they leave me. Every year they leave me. But they come back, and I'm usually tremendously proud of what they're doing and love having that experience with all of them. So now I'm going to call the names of those who have won distinction in the major. Elijan Arkasoy. Shane Cashin. Thomas James Cole III. Michael Dussault. Christopher Foote. Gwen Yang.
Yes, that was great.
Ryan Hoger. Michael Jacob Kiffel. Anna Croft. Shihab Osman Malik. Michael Thomas Marshall, Jr. Neelish Murthy. Chinmay Pandit. Justin Rosenblum. Winner of Outstanding Honors Poster, Student Choice, Rahul Sharma. Nick Vega. Winner of the Outstanding Honors Poster Faculty Choice, Moses Snow Wayne. Weiran Zhang. Little brother, John Hamilton Ziff. Thankfully, EcoTeach knows I don't know how to read, so they gave me phonetic cards. Now we go on to those who have graduated with high distinction in the major. And the following person is one of our best honors thesis finalists, Dane Burkholder. Angela Chen. Nicholas Gardner. Akash Jain. Winner of our second placed Outstanding Honors Poster Faculty Choice, Michael Karamarian. CJ sent me a video to learn how to pronounce his name today. Chenjia Lim. Oh, and Best Honors Thesis finalist. Following person has won second place Outstanding Symposium Presentation, second place Outstanding Honors Poster, Student Choice, Elizabeth Lim. Christopher Glenn McGibbon. Met Clyde and Catherine, your grandparents, yesterday. It was very nice. Francis Mitchell, second place Outstanding Symposium Presentation, and second place Honors Poster, Student Choice. Meredith Parenti. Brian Perry Carrera. Asha Reddy. Rafael Rocos. Akshay Trivedi. Second place, Outstanding Symposium and Outstanding Honors. Poster. The winner of the symposium presentation, very good theory on tennis, participation generally, Will Walker. Here's a student who not only won a Best Thesis Prize, but he won it as a junior. So he is 2017's awardee for the Best Thesis, Jackie Xiao. Stephanie Zhang. And this year's Best Thesis recipient, Maya Dervasula. Please join me in congratulating the economics students who are graduating with distinction. They've worked really hard. And now I'd like to welcome Professor Emma Raziel to the podium to continue with the recognition of the undergraduates. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. It's now my pleasure to read the names of the undergraduates who have graduated from Duke University today, starting with Mitchell Goldhaber. Jared Katzen. Kobe Theodore Wayne. Juno Park. Kavi Prakash Sakrani. Julio Santiago. Mohammed Soliman Ahmed. Divya Dulipala. Gorish Gwalani. Bengisu Pai. Daniela Sosedo. Colin Dennis Wareham. Colin Duffy. Jonathan Chapman. Sydney Siegel. Samantha Keaton Miller. Ryan Davidson. Matthew Baker. Nicholas Justice. Alexander Martin Loughnane. Michael Savitt. Ian De Silva. Jonathan Charbonneau. Jerry Lee. Matthew Rock. Dennis Ling. Alexandra Huff. Marissa Witayananan. Rachel Reben. Rachel Eastwood. Nikhil Parancheri. John O'Connell. Grant Benjamin Noonan. Kevin Bao. Kevin Wang. Michael Sha Liu. Christian Santiago. Qinglan Fan. Xiu Fan. Michelle Lowe. Anahita Segal. Eugene Harrington. Samuel Lemon Broca. Madeline Keys. Nina Cervantes. Reed Michael Krager. Bao Dun. Virginia Foley. Helen Liu. Avery Jackson Brust. Shuhao Liu. Jinyan Shane. Rita Tso. Thank you. Shua Lo. Jackie Huang. Yuet Miao. Michael Chan. Zachary Au. Eileen Yao. Gina Ree. Jordan Samuel Taylor. Courtney Ariel DeGia. Samuel Ashton Oliver. Baptiste Francois Adnet. Abivir Arjun. Thomas Tafoya. Diana Yet. Joyce Wen. Rishab Kumar. Yu Julia Han. Charlie Chan. Jason Wong. Keely Jane Gaston. Allison Hubert. Alexander David Wakil Thompson. David Knox Croft. Ashlyn Miller. Lillian Shear. Bokson Ying. Yifan Song. Eric Leon Jung. Samantha Siegel. Nikita Gawande. Junjun Fang. Andrew Zhang. Christina Cheng. Aaron Song. Wenfei Zhao. Sean Michael Gilbert. Samuel Connellige. Christopher Chendoskri. Rohan Mirota. Christine Song. Sanjukta Santa. Sakshi Khanna. Manuel Angelo. Daniela Francesca Prega. Wilson Foster Rowe. Charles Liu. Jake Turketta. Matthew Livingston. Cooper Harrison Roman. Nathaniel Reed Edenfeld, Field. Tyler Halpern. Harsh Sharma. Megan Kathleen Horry. Marielle Rogers. Deborah Liu. Douglas Miller McLaurin. Rishi Suchdev. Derek Wong. Oliver Kilpatrick. Matthew Robert Sullivan. Noah Gray. Ian Michael Silvers. Akul Sharma. Omar Mangal. Victor van der Kerkhoven. Jasser Rollins. James Martelli Raven. Peter Koch. Noi Omabo. Chetan Reddy. Hey. Ade Okunyade. Eric Hersberg. Gregory Vong. Richard Law. Ibrahim Jempolat. Anjan Polat. Chris Taylor. Matthew Johnson. Colt Michael Sessions. Travis John Kloss. Ogeshi Onega. Alisa Makani. Brooke Rorong Huang. Vivian Tan. Sean Klassen. Michael Kusnerick. Surya Prabhakar. Christopher Lewis. Michael James Gaddis. William Klein. Madison Shaw. Maddie Mejia Johnson. Michael Camarda. Trevor Holland Hansen. Antonio Calderon. John David Strickland. Alexander Carbonelli. Taylor Charbonnet. Dante Joseph Cordero. Daniel Calabretta. Peter Young. Jorge Enrique Meza. Maxine Au. Min Yo Yoon. Daniel Kim.
So, once again, please join me, and please do so with your maximal whoops. I'd like to congratulate the class of 2018. Woo! So before you all leave, there are a few important reminders. One is to please put your recyclables or trash in the appropriate receptacles on your way out, because we have another ceremony in Cameron coming soon after this one. If you're an honors student, please collect your poster. I'd also like to thank my faculty colleagues who attended today. And most of all, I'd like to thank our staff for the incredible organizational work that they do for this ceremony, and for coming out on Mother's Day. And finally, to all the graduates, families, and friends, thank you for coming, and safe travels.